Anita, the plethora of candidates on the GOP side continues to grow. And while they all have their pet causes and issues and personalities, one thing we're already starting to see with their declarations of their intention to seek the presidency is a theme of religion. Rand Paul, in fact, said that he, through the help of God, was declaring his candidacy. God was apparently right there giving him a hand on the announcement. It was a dual effort there, much like Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, I guess. So what does this say
Take a
about
knee. Just take a
right?
knee.
So where does this put us as far as the culture of America and the fact that, bottom line, less and less people identify themselves with organized religion these days?
Yeah, it really is amazing. The numbers I saw, that the number of Christians has gone down by 8%. Now, that's not necessarily a huge number, but I was looking at numbers of millennials. A lot of them
Right.
consider themselves secular. They're not identifying with any religion. So I really don't know how this is going to play. There's an increased number of single women in the electorate who tend to vote Democratic. So I'm not sure that this talking point, or, this kind of pandering, and forgive me, it does feel like pandering. Now, this is not to take away from anyone's sincere religious beliefs, but when it
Sure.
comes to sincere religious beliefs, I don't look to politicians for that, because
Right.
they're out kissing babies, as it were. So I
Right.
really wonder how well that's going to play. And especially when you have instances of Republicans doubling down on social issues and restricting women's health care options, when you had a Republican congressman, now he just pressured his mistress to get an abortion, I believe. And he's
Right.
kind of abortion happy when it comes to the women in his own life. He just doesn't want to legislate that way. So the people in his life can get them, but nobody
Right.
else. So, and I don't mean to be flippant about a very serious conversation, but it was frustrating to me. I thought, wait a second, we can't have this do as I say, not as I do. That's the difference with social media today, Shawna, because let's go to videotape. Let's go to the tweet. Immediately, somebody's going
Right.
to be busted on something like that.
Well, I think you bring up a good point about sincerity. And again, this is not about people that are registered to vote as Republican or Democrat that happen to be religious. Totally different. We're talking about people that are running for office and using their religion as some, I guess, way to bond with who they
Right,
believe the voters are, right?
right,
You're Christian, I'm Christian. You like the South, I like the South. Like these are different things that we're starting to see. And it's almost like a personality profile. Where I think they're going to be in trouble is not that the country is turning anti-religious, like you say, it's just that they're secular, that there's so much more diversity in how people identify themselves. And so that's not a gimme anymore. You think back to the 60s and how JFK being Catholic was just, oh my goodness, this is crazy talk. And now it seems like the idea of being Protestant Christian is not something that automatically bonds you with a majority of your prospective voters, particularly in a presidential race when more young people are expected to vote.
Well, what's also interesting to me is Hillary Clinton, against whom they are all running and bashing her daily. But the thing that's interesting is that she's a Methodist. She's a big Methodist. She really is quite a religious person. The difference is she doesn't wear her religion on her sleeve. She used to have prayer meetings when she was in the Senate. And, that's one
Right.
of the ways that she bonded with Republicans, actually. But what was interesting is, she's not someone who is pushing that part of herself. It doesn't mean that her faith is not meaningful to her. So I think that's the difference. We have to be very careful. Just because you say, I am this, you don't get to push that down the American gullet. And there
Right.
is supposed to be a separation of church and state, after all. Didn't Rand Paul make some comment to the
Yeah,
contrary?
no, absolutely. I mean, well, what I think is interesting about your Hillary Clinton statement is, let's be really clear here. The reason she didn't do it is because she didn't feel like she needed to, right? It's not
Right.
polling well, right? I don't believe that she's standing up there trying to be the moral imperative about how to wield religion in a conversation. She's just got her finger on the pulse more than I think these gentlemen so far, and it is largely gentlemen running on the GOP side, they don't tend to have their finger on the pulse. A lot of them are coming out as anti-gay marriage, and then they're walking it back. They're pro-Iraq war, and then they're walking it back. And now I think this is going to have to be something that they used to wield, that again, they're going to have to dial it back. And if we can look to Hillary Clinton for anything, it's understanding what the people want to hear. And so if she's not utilizing her religion in that way, she's the ultimate poll test, right?
But Shauna, this also points to the difference between casting a glancing blow from the sidelines and being in the national media spotlight. As opposed to Hillary Clinton, who's been spot on in her messaging, you see that Republicans are coming forward on Iraq and walking it back, coming forward on religion and gay marriage and walking it back. And I think they're finding out that when they're in the midst of national media scrutiny, it's a little tougher to stand up at the big table. And that really is the biggest thing that they're going to have to learn to navigate. The campaign is young, so certainly they have 18 months to do that. But, well, they at least have the end of this year to get their messaging together before the primaries begin, because clearly a lot of work needs to be done. This is Shauna Virtue and Anita Finley on another episode of Dare We Say. Join us next time. I'm sure we'll be following this very closely.